I'm djTLM, and this is Share the Knowledge. Today's podcast is brought to you by Bandzoogle. So we were just talking about digitizing your whole collection, your vinyl collection. That made me think about when I first started to play with DVS and I was using Final Scratch. And in the beginning, I was bringing an external drive that had like, I don't even remember, but it had a lot of music on it, like way too much music for a gig, especially coming from the vinyl era where I was bringing a lot of vinyl to the club, like 3 or 4 crates, which is way too much. But I was bringing a lot. Once I went digital, I brought even more and quickly realized that it was just way too much. Bringing more music doesn't always make things easier. But I did find a question that kind of relates to that because it is about a library of music. And the question is, or it's actually 2 questions. The first question is, I have an entire library of music that I haven't gone through as far as making cue points to know where to mix in and out, etc. But isn't this going to take forever to go through my library to do this? I practice at home with mixing, but I keep having to stop to set a cue point for each track because I don't know my music. This makes practice not fun. This is going to take forever. And then there's a second question. Let me just add that right now. Once you figure out your niche as far as the type of music you want to play, EDM, house, rap, hip hop, do all the rules apply to each genre as a DJ, as far as mixing, dropping it on the one, etc.? I know house EDM is usually about blending longer mixes and messing more with the EQ rather than hip hop. Well, the first comment on that last part, yes, there is definitely a difference in mixing hip hop and R&B or house music if you choose to do it differently. Normally, indeed, with house, they would have longer blends. And if you have a longer blend, a longer transition, that gives you more time to do stuff with the EQ. You have to imagine if you are blending for 16 bars or maybe longer, that is a great opportunity to start really playing with the audio. That's going to be the thing. The 2 tracks are playing in sync, and now you have the opportunity to highlight certain parts of one song by enhancing that frequency with the EQ while you take it out of the other one and really form that nice mashup between the 2. As far as hip hop, a lot of times your transition is just to get to that next track. So you do want to make sure if you have like an 8-bar transition that it sounds good, and you do a little thing with the EQ maybe, but after those 8 bars, you're on to the next track. So there's a difference when it comes to that stuff. But I do see more of the house DJs incorporate a little bit more of the hip hop style because they're doing shorter transitions a lot of times now. Now, not all, and I'm definitely not familiar when it comes to all genres, but I've seen more performances, especially with the EDM DJs, where you can see that they definitely are going a lot faster than they used to go when it comes to the transitions. But let me go to the first part again. Now, you already said the most important thing right here, and that is I don't know my music. And that is key right there because you shouldn't have to have a cue point in every track to tell you where you need to make your transition, where your transition should start and stop. First of all, because there's not just one transition point in a track, there's going to be multiple parts within a track that could be suitable for a transition that fits phrase-wise. So I have a lot of tracks in my collection that might not have, actually, let me take that back. I don't think I have more than maybe 3 or 4 tracks where I have a cue point set for where the transition begins. And that was only because I was doing a prepared mix and I needed to go straight to a certain point. When I normally have cue points in my tracks, I'll have cue points at the beginning of the track simply because I want to go to that first marker, first beat a lot of times when I want to do some backspin tricks or something like that. And then I might have cue points at certain parts that are interesting to me. That could be a break. That could be a certain sentence or a part that I know I loop at certain points. And then I'll have a cue and a loop set to that point. But I don't use the cue points for transition. You can do that, but that should be more of a practice thing than like a real performance thing. Once you start to know your music, I know most of the music that I play, I know it well. So when you're listening to the track, you already know when your transition point is coming. So therefore, you won't need cue points for every track. So you need to get more familiar with your music. Now, granted, you're not going to know your entire collection that way, especially nowadays with the digital, how easy it is to get music digitally. You will end up with a lot of music that you don't know well. That happens when you're like either downloading a lot or buying a lot, or you're subscribed to a DJ pool and you just pull everything from that DJ pool. You're going to end up with a lot of music, and it's really hard to know all that music well. Even if you don't know it well, there's still a certain logic that comes with the structure of music, where if you already hear a track for a while, you can hear the structure. You can hear if it's using like 4 or 8 bar phrases, and that's going to give you a good indication of which parts are the right parts to start a transition. Let me just look at that question again. So, isn't it going to take forever to go through my library to do this? I practice at home with mixing, but I keep having to stop to set a cue point. So this makes practice not fun, and it's going to take forever. Now, look. Practice should be fun, but then again, practice is not all about fun. Practice is the process you go through to master a certain skill. And at certain points that can get frustrating, should get frustrating, because it's not always easy to learn stuff. If this was all just fun and games, then a lot of you would probably not really get any further. It's that hurdle you have to get over that's going to make you better. So yeah, it's supposed to take time. I mean, I know things have gotten easier with the tech nowadays, but you have to imagine when it comes to DJs like me who've been in the game longer and who spend hours and hours and hours and hours and days and weeks and months to practice, to improve, to get better, to start out with like the crappiest mixer and over time upgrade and keep on practicing and then get in front of people and keep on practicing. It's almost kind of I resent seeing someone say like, it's going to take a long time. That's how things work. If you want to become good, you're going to have to put in that time and effort. But especially in the beginning, you shouldn't even worry about having that cue point at every track. You should be focused more on listening to the track, finding out how that structure works, and recognizing that structure in more of your songs. You should not need cue points to tell you where to do a mix. And thousands of DJs, hundreds of thousands of DJs have proven that, because we all did it without cue points when we learned how to mix. Keep that in mind. So that's a new thing that came later, that you could add cue points. And it's a great tool to use sometimes, but you shouldn't depend on that either. So I hope that really helps you out, that you know that you don't need it. And it's very important to learn music, but you can't learn your entire library like that. That's going to take a lot of time. So you're going to also have to take a look at your music library and see, is all of this music that I have here music that I actually want to listen to or want to play? Because a lot of people now, like I said, are collecting a bunch of music. And then when you honestly look back at your like external hard drive or your computer, and you have like 200 or 400 gigs of music on there, you're going to see a lot of albums that you never play. You just downloaded them because they were there. So now they take up space and they make your collection look bigger. But if you're not using them and you won't ever play them, you don't really need them either. So keep that in mind as well. All right, adding to question 1. I feel like I cannot perform at any events until my entire music library is set up with cue points, edits, etc. It's just too time consuming. So again, first off, I resent people looking at it like it's going to take too much time. But I have to add, you're looking at this the wrong way, because you do not, like I just said, need your entire music library to DJ. Not at all. So what I would suggest you do is just get a few folders of certain genres, start with that, and maybe even take a couple of tracks out of that, start with those tracks. Start with the tracks that you most likely play when you go out to play, because no one uses their entire music library to play. So you're going about this the wrong way. You don't have to start by getting your whole collection done. You're not going to go out to perform and bring, I don't know how big your collection is, but you're not bringing your entire music collection and going through that, scrolling through that every time you need a next track. That doesn't work. That's what I'm telling you. When I started out with Final Scratch, I had way too much music, and I could see I was scrolling more than I was listening and paying attention. So I quickly realized I got to cut it down and bring less music. This makes no sense, because I was scrolling through tracks that if I looked at them, I could tell straight away, I'm never going to play this. This is not something I'll play. So why is it in my folders? You can have a separate collection for listening, but when it comes to the collection you use to perform, to play, make sure there's not all that clutter in there, all that stuff that you're not using. So just to be sure, just to be clear, you don't need cue points and edits and loops and have everything set up for every track. That is not the most important thing. It can help, it can enhance a performance, but if you're just going out and you're playing freestyle, you don't need all of that in every track. Bandzoogle makes it easy to build a stunning website for your music in minutes. You can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and then customize your design and content in a few clicks with Bandzoogle's easy visual editor. Now, all the features you need for a professional website are already built in, including tools to sell your music and merch commission-free, mailing list tools to grow your fan list and send newsletters, and integration to pull in content from all your online services, including Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud. I use Bandzoogle to create the Share the Knowledge podcast website, and that was very easy. Bandzoogle plans start at just $8.29 a month and include your own free custom domain name. Now, if you want to try it out for free for 30 days, click on the link in the description box down below and be sure to use the promo code SHARE to get 15% off the first year of your subscription.